Sophie shows you the wrong pictures. It's his fault, not mine, right? Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm not really sure I'm happy about doing a presentation, but it's really fun to talk about something that you really love. And I've kind of been born and raised with it. My mother didn't have anything else to do when I was born but take care of me and help my grandfather do genealogy, so kind of been spoon-fed. We're going to talk about British Isles research, and we're only going to do those things that you can do on the internet. We're not going to go into the books and papers and that sort of thing unless they're on the internet. Okay. So first thing I want to talk to you about is it's really interesting how many things you can find with a Google search. Have you used a Google search? Go ahead and start there. This is my great-great-grandparents. And I can find every single one of them with a Google search. Okay. Go to the next. Charles Shumway, 1806. I've got all of those websites on there and down, more and more and more of them. And the full life history right there that came up with the first search. So you kind of have to learn how to go into some of the websites are costly. Some of them are experimental, but there's an awful lot of people that are putting their genealogy on the websites, their own personal websites, or their own family websites, so that they can share it and you can find them. This history down here is on a Peter Shumway, which is the one that came from France. So it's got everything on it. But it just happened to have this history of Charles, who was born in 1806. And of course, because he was a pioneer, he's up you find him in a lot of places. Okay. JoAn Hooker was his wife, and she died at winter quarters, so she didn't make it to Salt Lake City. But it came right up. When I put a Google search, it came right up. And it's got her life history on it down there on the bottom of it. It's got the plaque at winter quarters. And so the Find a Grave website is really good too. It's more popular, I think, here in the United States, but there's an awful lot of people that came to the United States from England that are still on there. So, okay. Jorgen Christensen didn't make it to Salt Lake City either. He died in Iowa. But when I did the Google search, it pulled up Ancestry.com, and I didn't have a membership to Ancestry.com at home, but it still let me know that there's information there. So you can find out what you want to find, if they're there, and then you have to either have a membership or go to the Family History Center, where you can get into Ancestry.com to get the dates and places. Okay. Anne Jensen never did leave England. She died before her husband came. But there's still information on her with the Google search. William Hymas. That Jenny is a bit different website. I haven't really found a lot on it, but that's got enough on there to give you enough information to be able to go forward and do other searches. And it's there and it's all good. It's got his immediate family and birth and death dates. So that's quite a bit of information to get on just one site, just to begin with. And then there's other sites that have also got him on there. Okay. That's just some more of the sites that are on there. Mary Ann Hymas, Mary Ann Atkins Hymas. And it comes up, and there is just lots and lots and lots of pages with them on. They actually came as got up into Utah. James Thurston came from England when he was young. I believe he came with his parents, I'm not right sure, his wife and children, and they all ended up in Hyde Park, Utah, and there is just lots and lots of information on them. And I haven't gone back into that website. I have a handout that's got the websites we're talking about. I did not go back into that one, but it's called shakyacres.com. So you might want to write that down and see what it has. I haven't seen that before until I started doing this the other day. Okay. This time I had to be a little bit specific because every generation from back in the 1600s down to the present time has a Thomas Palmer in their family. Every one of them either was Thomas Palmer or had a son, Thomas Palmer. So we had to get a little bit specific with that, and I wanted the one that was married to Frances Starkins. And so I put that in the Google search. I put Thomas Palmer with quotation marks and then put Frances Starkins outside of the quotation marks and pulled it right up, and there's a lot of them on there. Okay. When I put this one in there, the computer came up and said about 105,000 results in 0.13 of a second. So they just popped up there, and there's no way you're going to check on all of them, but you will find histories. You will find Gibson Condi's journal. He kept a journal from the time he was about 12 years old and right up until he died. And it's on one of those websites. Elizabeth Robinson was his wife. She pretty well stayed in Morgan, Utah from the time they were married until she died. She had 8 children in about 11 and a half to 12 years. And she took care of her kids, and her youngest one was about 5 when she died. But there are websites that have got her life history on as well. And there's a lot of genealogy as well, not just the life histories, but their genealogy as in parents, grandparents, and so on back. Okay. On Peter Forrest Green, I found a blog spot with him on it, and it was incredible. I did not know it was there. It told about from the time he was very young. He was the first baptism in Sweden, so he's very popular in church history. But there was a lot of information, and on that blog spot, I had his history, but I found that he had a child before he was baptized into the Mormon Church, and the mother took the child and vanished. And nobody really knew about him. I think Peter did, because he tried to get it, or not Peter, but yeah. Peter tried to get him to come to Utah, and he wouldn't have anything to do with him. And so it wasn't until he was an adult that anybody found him. And so then his story was on that, and it was really interesting how many things I could find on there. Okay. Samuel Smith came with his parents from Sherrington, England. He was in Brigham City. He was the mayor of Brigham City, the judge, and the mayor in Brigham City. And I pulled up that history just on the internet as well. Of course, all the pioneers have their stories. We all have our stories, which reminds me, are you writing yours? Do you want somebody else to write it for you? Okay. This one I hadn't seen before when I was putting this together the other day, and I was so impressed with that picture. I had to go back and find out really who it was, and it's there's J. Clifford Forrest Green is up on the top over there, the son of Peter And it's his wife's family. She's one of the children on that. I was just impressed with that, and the little picture pedigree chart that was with it. Okay. Okay, has everybody tried FamilySearch? You know how to get into it, you know how to see the original records. Okay. You know how to find ancestral file on FamilySearch. You know that in FamilySearch and their search records are in this individual searches. You can't get a pedigree chart. You can't print a pedigree chart. But now they have put ancestral file on there, and it's up under genealogies. So ancestral file, pedigree resource file is up there. And they may or not be correct. I have to tell you, it's like the freeway. It'll get you across town, but you've got to get off to find what you're looking for. So be sure and verify the people that are on there. A lot of times they've been combined, and a lot of times they've got off on a different line than yours, maybe. When they did research back when they was doing ancestral file, they did the direct line. They didn't do all the children and grandchildren, and so there's a way for it to not be correct, but at least it's a freeway. Okay. Okay, on this one was very interesting. When I went to my ancestral file, which was created by the pioneers in the early years of the church, and George Robinson was listed as the father of Elizabeth Robinson, that we talked about a little bit ago. And it said that he was from Gilling, Yorkshire, England. And when I started doing a little bit of digging and research, I decided, one thing I did decide I wanted to do, you can go to the next one, I wanted to go in FamilySearch, and you know where they've been putting all of the things on that are on FamilySearch that have been indexed? Well, if you go in there and look, you're going to see an awful lot of records in there that are browse images. And those are not indexed, but they are original records. So I decided that I needed to see what I could do by how to get in there so that I could tell somebody else how to do it. So I go on to the next one. I looked at for their marriage. I knew that it was in 1828 at Darlington. That's where they were married. And it was George Robinson, and he was supposedly from Gilling. So I went into the record that was the browse image record of the Darlington marriages. Okay. And it's, if I can shoot straight here. It was this one right here. So I went into that. Okay. Comes up here and it says there's 108,720 images, right? Well, we're not going to go through them one at a time. So we click on View the Images, and then we looked for 1824. And clicked on 1824. And then it comes up starting with the first of the year, so I decided, okay, I don't need to look for about the first 100 maybe, so I moved on in through it until I got over to the 1st of May, and the 1st of May, then I started going through them one at a time. And it was, it came right up. Okay, let's see the next one. This says, George Robinson of Leeds, in the parish of Leeds, and a cabinet maker of Yorkshire. And then it goes on down, it says that he was married to, where's Margaret Angus? Right here. Of Darlington. And then as you go on down to the bottom, it says that Go to the next slide. I think it's a little easier to read on that one. One more. There. Okay. It says, and he furthermore made oath that the consent of Titus Angus, the father of the said Margaret Angus, hath been obtained for such marriage. George Robinson. Margaret Angus is the right one, and Titus Angus is the right one, but the George Robinson had a different birth date. So, as a consequence, I went and looked for George Robinson with Leeds, and I found him. He had a different father that we had on our path file, or our ancestral file. So his name was Samuel Robinson. And all of his dates were right. He did his own baptism. He was a cabinet maker. Everything was right except his birth date and his father. So, okay, next. It was interesting. Well, it didn't take very long to build his pedigree chart, because in Family Search and it said Samuel Robinson was George Robinson's father, and Samuel Robinson's father was John, and John's father was John, and John's father was John. And then I just built them all, and they just kind of flowed together. So I was very sure that I had found the right person. Okay. That was really an interesting experience, because I just decided I just wanted to show you how to do browse images. If you can't get rid of the family skeleton, you may as well make it dance. So we might just as well enjoy what we're doing, right? Okay, go to the next one. So this is the church, St. Peter's Church, Leeds, Yorkshire, England, and it's near Bradford. And there was a lot of people came to Utah from there. I found a real lot of them as I've been going through a lot of different families that came from Leeds. And I like to think of Leeds as being a little bit like, Queen Creek maybe. It's in the Salt River Valley. So if you said somebody lived in the Salt River Valley, well, if somebody lived in Leeds, there was a lot of other places there, but it was still in the Leeds area. However, it wasn't anywhere near as big as Salt River Valley. Okay. Genealogy is an Ireland or an England website. It's genealogy in the UK and Ireland. Genealogy. And as you look at it, every one of those places are available in this website. It's a little bit like National Archives. It's an educational area. It's got a lot of places, and each one of them has its own place. And if you click on the next one, we just go up to Genealogy and click on it, and it opens it up to Ireland or to England. And I like this map. Of course, I like colors, so that's good. Part of the fun. But all those places have information in them from all of those. And these are all the counties on either side. And so you can go to them either by clicking on the map or by clicking on one of the places, and it'll open it up onto one of them. So this one tells you all the subjects that are covered in all those places. This one down here on the bottom, it says official non-parochial BMD service or record service. Just in case you probably are already aware that England's BMD goes from 1837 to the present time. Anything before that has to be found in other places except their birth, marriage, and death records. So most of the time you'll find them in parishes, churches, and other places. That one that says IGI batch numbers up there of the British Isles in North America. Archer software is over there. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But those are all places that you can go to look on the internet and find what you're looking for. Okay. Birth, marriage, and death. Well, I've heard some other things, but I'm not trying to recall them. What did they had one the other day that was interesting, that's what it was, and I can't remember what it was. It might be on here. While I'm searching, I kind of like to know a little bit about the area. This is the Harmondsworth Parish in Middlesex, England, and I had an end of line. Actually, the Thomas Palmer that we were talking about, he was the end of the line, and I had a really hard time getting past there. My mother hadn't been able to get past there, and when we did, why, we found Harmondsworth was where their family was, and so I found that picture, and I thought maybe that would be kind of interesting, to just a little sideline. Right now, it's sitting in the path of the runway 6 at Heathrow Airport. So last I heard, they were debating whether to tear it down, whether to try to move it, or to just deal with it. And I think probably they're going to deal with it, because I think they had an awful lot of opposition. They can't use it anymore because it's so close to the runways, it's too noisy. So it can't be used as a church. But there was a pretty interesting story along with it. Okay. All right, this is Archer software. And as you can see down the side over here on this side, you can select the county you want to look at. And then when you get the county, then you can select by the alphabet what city you want, if you want one that starts with a A or a P or an S or whatever. And it moves it through alphabetically. Okay, go to the next one. You can also go down to these other countries: Wales, Scotland, Ireland. And then they're in there. You'll notice they're in there with marriages and baptisms by years. So if you have somebody and you know their birth year or their marriage year, you don't have to look at all of them. All you have to do is find the one that covers that year and click on it. Okay, go to the next one. So this is Yorkshire, and it's just that easy. You can just click from one to the other. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, this is the IGI batch numbers. This program is give or take the old DOS program. It's old and it's been around for a long time. It's been really easy to get around. There's a lot of people that don't know about it. It's the church records for the LDS Church, and what they did and have been doing for a long time was extracted the information off of the films that they have been taking since they had cameras. And so all of these records that they've got have been processed, and then they were put in this IGI batch numbers. And so you can go in there, and it's really fun to go in and follow around and find the families. Okay, go to the next one. So the first thing you do is you click on England, and you go to the next one. And let's see. Oh yeah, they're without. They don't have ordinance states. They just have names and places. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, while you're in the batch numbers, I don't know whether I've got them on there in another place or not, but while you're in those batch numbers, if you open it up and say you had George Robinson on there, you'd find him with his, well, let's go to Thomas Palmer, for example. Thomas Palmer was the son of George Palmer and Dinah, but no maiden name. But guess what? I went to the marriage record that was about the time that Thomas Palmer was born. I went to the marriage record and found that the bride's name was there, so that I had a maiden name. And so from there, then I could go to George and find out who his parents were and to their marriage and find out the maiden name. And it didn't take but a very short time as far as research is concerned to build out. I had 298 names added to my pedigree chart. All of their children, everything. But the way that I found it was just a little bit different than just going to the IGI batch numbers, because I had no idea where to go to look, because Thomas Palmer didn't have a birthplace. He had a marriage place and a death place, but not a birthplace. Okay. Go to the next one. I thought that this was going to have pictures on it when I first started looking at it, but I found that it's got pictures of the churches, the cemeteries, actually. But there's a lot of them in there, and then they do have a lot of names and stuff, but the pictures in here are of the cemeteries. Every one of the counties, I believe, have got this type of record. It's just yorkshirebmd.org.uk. Most all of these websites are either .uk or .co.uk. And I've got a list of the websites for you that we've been talking about. Okay. This one is relatively new. We've talked about Find a Grave already. This has got more of the worldwide things as their goal. It's just only been out for probably less than a year, but they're building a pretty big database, so it would be worth checking that to see where you were going with it. Find a Grave. Does everybody use Find a Grave? You'll find a lot of people from England there as well, especially the ones that came here. Okay. Okay. Ancestry.com. Kind of pricey. It's a golden place to go to find things. If you don't have a membership to it, it'll still let you pull them up, find out if they're there or not. You'll notice that on there was no dates, no places. But we've got Samuel Robinson and his wife, and they were in Yorkshire, but we don't know exactly which town because we haven't gone onto the paid site. Okay? All right. Where would you go? Family History Center? You bet. Besides, they've got some other ones as well that you can get into that are paid sites. Okay. To get into the specific part of Ancestry, go down to the UK. Right there. Click on that, and then that lets you get you into a closer location. I think you can click on the map as well over there. And then be sure and check the right-hand column because it breaks it down a lot more too to help you get into where you're looking for them. It's an awesome place to find things. I want you to remember too when you go in, it almost always pulls up the things that are probably in the census. If you're beyond the census, you're going to have to find church records. And you have to scroll down through a lot of places, a long way down before you get into the parish records. But you will find parish records, and you will find when you open up the parish records, you will find the name comes right up on the screen, right, where you should be able to see it. You might not be able to read it, but you can see it. But they do have a lot of written records now, original records, but you do have to scroll a long ways down. Okay. Yeah, over there on the right hand, I said lower left, didn't I? Oh, the lower right will let you change counties. Over on that side. This will let you find different places in the county that you're open in. Okay. So, does everybody know their way around in England? Have you ever been there and tried to find your way around in England? It's very consolidated. It's very, very consolidated. And the streets might change their name about every 2 blocks, depending on whether there's a little bit of a curve or another street takes off the other way. The streets are only just the major thoroughfares have the same name across town. So you have to really get into the streets and areas in order to find anything close. Okay. That one's a little easier to read. The only thing is if you ask instructions, you're going to be prepared to read their map, because anybody will give you instructions. They'll say, oh, you get on bus number 35 and you go to such and such else, and then you change buses. Then you get on the train and you ride the train out to somewhere else, and then you get back on the bus and you go to St. Albans. So it's interesting because you don't, but it's easier than driving, I might add. Or if it's walking distance, they'll tell you it's right down there, about 15 minutes. Okay. This was the St. Michael's Church. That was the one we were headed to, and we asked instructions about how to get there, and they said you go right up to that first corner, that first street that turns off to your right, and it's about a 15-minute walk. My companion and I kind of jogged. We didn't really walk. It took us about 30 minutes to get there. So their 15 minutes don't measure. Okay. That's how you take his markings off of the PowerPoint. Okay, National Archives. Every country has a National Archives. There's National Archives of Scotland, of Ireland, of England, of the United States. All of them have their National Archives. They're kind of the same type of program that, like Januki, it's got a lot of stuff in it. You can go a lot of places, and you can spend a lot of time there. You can get a lot of interesting things there. Your databases are a little, not so many. There's more links. You'll find links that you can click on and go to, okay? So this is kind of the way it opens up. They've just started, within the last year, they've kind of got a new catalog, and I haven't spent much time in there, so I can't tell you how they changed it. I did get most of these pictures out of it. But these are the things that, each one of those is a subject, and depending on what you're looking for, the migration or military records. They had military all the time, so you've got a big chance of finding military records on your ancestors in England. The one thing they do have is the wills. So we're going to talk about wills. You'll notice the Doomsday and some of the other things that are available books, and they are online now as well. But we're going to talk about the will. So um, the wills from 1384 to 1858 are in one place, and then the ones from 1858 further are like in another database type thing. And so my ancestor was born in about 1770. Had been a dead end, hadn't been able to find anything on it for a long, long time. My mother hadn't been able to find anything on it. So I thought, well, I was supposed to give a presentation, so I decided, okay, I'll use Thomas Palmer for my go-to and see what we can find. And when I clicked onto, I was going into the website that's called Genealogist, and it's a website of websites. It's got and they're all sorted into different categories. So I clicked on one of the websites there, and it took me to National Archives, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do here? So anyway, I decided to see if Thomas Palmer had a will. So go to the next one. I typed in and typed in and typed in, and finally, go one more now. I put those things in different orders, back in the same way 3 or 4 times, but finally, I think what I did is I got close enough on the dates, because actually his death date was 1817. So I found it, but anyway, okay, go to the next one. So the will of Thomas Palmer, a laborer of New Windsor. And there's a will. And for £3.36, I guess I can't remember, it's been too long since I was there. I pulled out a credit card, I put the money in, and about 10 minutes I had Thomas's will. It was awesome. Okay, go to the next one. And it also had, let's see, oh, that's not the page. Okay, go to the next page. There's the will. Anybody want to read it for me without reading the top line? It said what it says, and this is why it was so exciting to me. And it took me, I have to say, it took me about a week or so. I brought it to the Family History Center to our committee meeting, and I had the others helping me. But it says, I, Thomas Palmer of New Windsor in the county of Berkshire, a laborer, son of George Palmer. How many wills tell you who the father is? The father had died of Heathrow in the parish of Harmonsworth in the county of Middlesex. And I thought, oh my goodness. I didn't know whether I'd find his father or not. Anybody, where would you go if you found that? Out of the places we've talked about, what would be your first thought? You know what county he's in now. Birth, marriage, and death is after 1837. All right. I went to the IGI batch numbers. I went to the IGI batch numbers and found George Palmer. Found Thomas Palmer. Thomas Palmer was born in Harmonsworth, and he lived in New Windsor. So I asked, we had a missionary here that was had served. He was served in the military, in the Air Force in England, and so I said to him, I said, so tell me, where is Windsor Castle in relation to Heathrow Airport? Because Harmonsworth is where Heathrow Airport is. That's the picture I showed you of the church. Windsor. And my answer was across the river. Just a short way, 10 miles at the most. So that was exciting. But I decided I had Now I've got George Palmer. Why is the will telling me court copies? 4 sisters. And very little property or distribution of anything. And I thought, okay, there's got to be another will. I went right back to National Archives, and I found George Palmer. And let it go a couple more. I found George Palmer. And then down here, Ann Palmer, widow of George. That's another 2 generations back. Ann Palmer is the grandmother of George Palmer. So I found 3 wills, and I went from 1770 back to about 1650 with the information I got out of the wills and out of the IGI batch numbers. Okay. National Archives has got censuses, right? Where are you going to find them? Ancestry.com. But they do have links. So if you have a membership to Ancestry, it'll work. Yeah, it's World Deluxe is what Ancestry is. Yeah, I think so. Because you can find all of the censuses for England yeah. Is there any other questions? I'll be sure to field questions if you have some. I might not answer them all.
When you say you went back to the batch number,
Archer Software, IGI batch numbers, both those, we talked about both those websites. Actually, both of those programs connect to Family Search and show you the record in Family Search now. So that one that came up that had George Palmer, and then it had the parents' names, and down on the bottom of it, it said C06862 or something, and that's the batch number. So if you went to IGI batch numbers, that would open up the batch that person is in. And if you just put just the surname in the search, it'll pull up all the Palmers that are in that batch. And then you can just figure out which ones belong to who, because they all have parents. So if it shows George and Dinah as the parents, then everybody that's George and Dinah is their kids. And they're all the same names, because there's Matthew and George and Thomas and William. And yes?
Found that great-grandfather married second quarter 1846. I just know that, not in detail. Details on the web, which you'll have to get a hold of particular organization.
No, most you can usually find the details in there. I didn't go into other than, well, as the IGI batch numbers, if you go like to Archer Software or one of these, it opens up and it shows you the details. Yes. Yeah, all of these are free except Find My Past and Ancestry. And they're available at the Family History Center. Okay. Okay, Find My Past. I haven't really become real fond of Find My Past. I haven't been able to find the things that I've looked for, and consequently, I haven't spent a lot of time there. But I have found some there. So let's go ahead and just work through this a little bit and see what it is. It's got records and history and news and quick searches, and this is the opening page where you type in what you're looking for. Okay, go to the next one. This is what it looks like. Now, this is an 1851 census. It's got Samuel King, Mary King, and Anne Sampson as a widow, and most likely that she's the mother-in-law. or the mother of the head of household. If she has the same, no, she wouldn't be. She'd be the mother of the wife because she doesn't have the same name as Samuel. So you can kind of assume that. And that's very common to see them in there. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay, this one, I've had this record for quite a while. I don't know exactly what their printout looks out like today, but this is what it looked like when I got that. And that's got the Starkins family on there. But I guess I'm one of those people, I like to be able to see what I'm looking for, and I see things that are with color better than black and white. Sorry, but I just like it. I like it better than that one. Okay. Okay, so Samuel King. We're going to see what in this next website. What's the next one? I can't remember what it is. Genealogist. This was my favorite. This was my favorite website for England. And up until, we haven't heard anything yet, have we, about them coming back? We had it on our website for quite a while, but then there was a problem and it's not back on. So, have you heard anything, Brother Harmon? You haven't heard anything from Salt Lake about that yet? I'm going to tell you about it. If you wanted to pay for a website, this would be the one that I would say, other than Ancestry.com. It's a lot less expensive, but it's a good site, and I really like that one. So you start by just putting your search in there at the beginning, and that's all you type in. And then you click search, and it comes up with, if it finds them, it comes up with, they're listed like this. And over there on that right-hand top corner, you'll see that each one of those tells you there's one in Cumberland, there's 2 in Essex, there's 2 in Kent, 4 in London, 2 in Norfolk, and 24 in Suffolk. And so that you don't have to go through all of those, you can select the one of those. Sometimes it'll be the counties, but it'll search all of the counties, and then you say, okay, I want to go to Suffolk, because that's where I know that they were from. So then you click on Suffolk over there, and it brings up all of them that are in Suffolk like this. And then you figure out which one you want according to their age, according to their addresses, if you know what their addresses are. And those little icons over on that side, the top one will let you see the original record, I believe, over on the right-hand corner there. Let you see the original record, and then the little person down underneath it will let you see a printed record. And so let's go to the next one and see if that's, okay, this is the one that's the printed record. No, this is the, yeah, this is the printed record. And you'll notice that it gives you everything you could ask for on there. It's got the birthplace, the address, the parish, some identification numbers and things over there. And then those little icons over on that side are similar to the ones that we were looking at before. One will let you see the parish record, the original record. One will let you see print out of this, and then the other one is, there's one more. Let's go to the next one. That's the original record. And so it's like the censuses, a little hard to read, but we can work with them, okay? The next one, that's your printed copy. And I like that. It tells you to set your printer on landscape, and then it just comes up across there, and it's just really nice. Okay, let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. This is one of those little icons. If you're a scrapbooker, if you want something nice to show what you found, it prints it out, puts the information on there, and just a real nice little page to put in a book. And I kind of like that too. Okay, next. On this one, you can put your surname up there in the top. And then when you click search, it's going to tell you by the green color or by the colors down here how many people there are in that area or that county with your surname or with the surname you're searching for. So up there in the Thurston is the one that I was looking for. And so down here, the one that's got the most has got at least 500, between 500 and 1,000 over there on that far side. And the others have a few here and there, but it lets you know according to the colors how many people there are there. So it's just kind of a little fun thing to do. You can kind of decide if a lot of your people were there or if there was just a few there. But it was kind of a nice feature, and I hope they don't take that off. But they've been changing things. So okay, next. So this is a current screen. This is what they're doing right now. So this kind of gives you an idea of what's going on with it. I was trying to remember if I had a go to the next screen. Their prices are alike about for 30 days is like $15 or something. So your full annual rate is somewhere around $200, or not 200, yeah, maybe $200. But Ancestry is a little more than that. Okay, go to the next one. Okay, so now we've got all of this information that we've been finding in all of these places. We got half a ream of paper laying around with all these pages on it. I don't anymore because I couldn't find them. But maybe you can guess where they are. They're on PowerPoint. Okay, go to the next one. As I found them, I put them on, I just open them up. What you do is you print screen and then you copy paste into a PowerPoint. You don't have to do anything else. And then you know where to find it. If I'm searching for this particular one, it was Parley Shumway. I had a discrepancy on my ancestral file. And so I just print screen and put it up there, and then I can go back and see it. Okay, on that one, you can see that there's two records there. One says that his death date was the 12th of April, 1830, and the other one says that it was February 1851. And in a different place, well, it is the same place. So I needed to know. I found 4 people that died on the 12th of April, 1830. They didn't have cars then, so there wasn't a car accident that wiped out 4 members of the family on one day. So I proceeded to see what I could find. Okay, go to the next one. I found P.J. Shumway, and he was in Wisconsin, not in Massachusetts. This is not necessarily in England, but this is the way I treat my England records too. Okay, go to the next one. Down there on the very bottom of this page, you can see it says that the bottom person on there says it's Bailey Clemens, and he's 74 years old. Okay, go to the next one now. All right, here's P.J. Shumway right down here on the lower left-hand corner. The very bottom one. It's not Bailey Clements, is it? It's Parley Shumway. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oh, one more. There, okay. There's Parley Shumway right there. And it was a little bit hard to read that other page, wasn't it? So in PowerPoint, you can adjust it a little bit. You can lighten it. You can darken it. You can enhance it in different ways. You can enlarge it. There's a lot of ways you can work on it to make it so that you can read it. And so when you're searching, you pop them in and just save them. And then after you get through, then you go back and say, I don't need this one, it's wrong. I don't need this one, it's wrong. But I do need this one, but I need to be able to read it. So then you can work it. Okay, next one. That was a death certificate that was fairly hard to read, but it just got pasted in there. No, not any changes. Print screen and open the PowerPoint and do Control-V. That's easier for me than it is to right-click. And paste it in there, and there it is. Then I cropped it, made some corrections, and there's one part of the correction that sharpens the dark in it. So now it's a little easier to read. It's a little easier to read if it's not quite that big, too. Okay. And that's the handout. And anybody have any questions now that you'd like to? Got a few minutes? Yes. We've got them over here. Yes. You know what? Your print screen is up on the top right-hand corner of your keyboard. And even though you've got this PowerPoint was going on and you've got no place on the screen to click anything anywhere, you can hit that print screen and it saves it to the clipboard and you can open up and paste it into PowerPoint. You can do anything with it. Well, yeah, the little flat cat thing that we have at the Family History Center is works really good. But I don't know, I haven't tried to do that on a screen where it was just a total full screen. But you can do that because it takes just the screen, just the way it is. Sometimes you get something on there and you want the whole thing, you don't want just part of it. And you don't want to have to adjust it down and go back and try to find it. You just pull that screen up there and just copy paste it onto a PowerPoint. Okay, anybody else have? Yes. So that I can find them, because I put all the Parley Shumways on one, and that's the name of my PowerPoint. Then I can go back and find it, and if I have to go back 2 or 3 days later, they're still there. I had a terrible time finding my papers because I was finding all these good things and then bringing them home from the Family History Center and miscellaneous other things. I couldn't find them. Ended up with 3 or 4 or 5 copies of the same thing because it was easier to go back on the internet and find it than it was to find them in the stack. So I decided I'm going to put them on the PowerPoints. Then I know where they are. And if I titled the PowerPoint the name of the person I'm searching for, they're alphabetic on my computer. Yes.
The same thing if you want to use Word document and just paste it into a separate page because you want to just not as easy to work with as the page in PowerPoint for some of the enhancements in the library,
Right.
sharpening all of some of the tools in PowerPoint so they're handy to work with.
Yeah. Microsoft Word for a written document, it works just fine. But I kind of like to get the pictures and some of the other things in there with it.
Great idea.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
If felt like we had British ancestors, the last person we knew of was the first one to come over from first slave.
Wherever they live.
Like I knew they were American.
Mm-hmm. The thing about it is that in those, especially in the censuses, if you found them as an adult, a parent, it asks, every one of them tells you where they were born and where their parents were born. 3 columns on the census. This person was born here, his father was born here, and his mother was born here. If they're in the United States, why they might be New York, Massachusetts, and no, but and if you were that way, that gets into kind of some history, because the people that came from England and the different countries kind of hung together. The people from France would have their own little community, and the people from England would have their own little community. So you'd have to do a little bit of checking out some of that. And you can always do a worldwide search, and you just, depending on the time, the parish records are a little, they're very good, but they're, I don't know depending on how available they are. But the best thing to do is just follow them down. Yes. She wants to know how to find them. She knows that they came before the Revolutionary War. Yes, when did the immigration records start, though? They didn't keep records for a long time. They started in, 1830, 1840, something like that.
I understand there's a book, and I've not seen it, and I don't know if they have it explained. It's supposed to be a classroom in immigration list that was written by William William
Yeah. Yeah. Remember when we talked about the Google search with quotation marks?
Name of the father, mother's given name and surname. So in 1797, I took a little bit around, I haven't found anything else on parents. Trying to actually locate back to the sites where we talked about stuff.
The Google search? The Google search? IGI batch numbers. The IGI batch numbers have back earlier than the BMDs. Mm-hmm. Each one of those batch numbers, when you pull them up, has a film record. Yeah. Well, just keep checking because there's, and don't forget the browse images, the IGI, because those are the original records and they go back a long ways. Yes.
First record, when I started in 1957, stopped in 1955. Copies of the parish records. Repeat the question.
Oh, okay. You tell me your question again now.
Copies of the parish records from the books.
Yes, there's a lot of them that are online, but you'll probably find it in Ancestry.com quicker than any place else, other than the IGI batch numbers. So there's those two places would be where I would go first to see if I could find them. Yeah, it's a lot faster on the internet, though. Okay. Okay. Either that or else I'll have to make them yell. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, it's been my pleasure to be here today, and I would invite you to come to the Family History Center and try out our things that you don't have at home. Thank you.